If you would please take your seats. You're not going to want to miss 1 second of this information. It is going to be fabulous. Again, make sure you've got your notebooks open and a pen that writes, and be ready to take some great notes. Our next speaker is a sought-after direct response copywriter specializing in, hello, what we do here, online sales copy and direct sales websites. Anybody have one of those here? Ray is responsible for writing copy that makes websites obscenely profitable. That sounds good, doesn't it? Obscenely profitable. His most recent project was a product launch in the real estate investment training field that brought in $1.17 million in just 6 days, and continues to bring in consistent revenue thanks to the back-end sales that he helped create. Our next speaker is the copywriting mind behind the scenes of many of the big internet product launches you would be familiar with from the last 12 months. His client roster reads like a who's who of internet marketing, really, including, of course, our own Ken McArthur, Frank Kern, Armin Morin, Mark Joyner, Mark Victor Hansen, Alex Mendozian, Joel Combs, Stu McLaren, Jeff Walker, Brad Callen, Kurt Christensen, and Jack Canfield. Wow. Our panel did a pretty good job of referring to him over and over again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce to you Ray Edwards.
Thank you. Wow. How are we doing? About a 5. How are we doing? I promise you, I didn't plan this, but my phone is ringing. It's my wife. I missed it. Whoops. Okay. So here's what she's calling about. Let me share with you. Would you like to know how amazing the internet really is? Yes. Okay, I don't know. Some of you may have noticed. I have a grill here. Some orthodonture. Something that I neglected to do when I was about 12, so I'm doing it now. And I have a broken bracket. And I called my orthodontist, who's back in Spokane, Washington this morning, and I said, I got this problem. What do I do? Because we're not going home for another month and a half, and I'll explain that in just a couple of minutes. And he said, well, you need to call somebody. You need to go see an orthodontist. So after lunch, I got out my iPhone. I Googled orthodontists in Kissimmee. I found one closest to the campground where my motorhome is parked. Mapped him out on Google Maps, called him, and made an appointment, and it took me about 3 minutes. Never would have happened without the internet. Is that amazing or what? Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we take for granted the world that we live in, I think, a lot of the time. Because it wasn't that long ago that what I just described was science fiction. Because how many Trekkies are in the room? Okay, I know you're actually Trekkers, right? Some of you right now, am I right? Some of you are going, he's not really in the club. This is Star Trek, right? It's like the combination, though. It's better than the communicator or the tricorder. It's both. And it's plugged into the computer on the Enterprise, and it's awesome. That's the age in which we live now. Everybody who thinks that's the most incredible thing, say yes. All right. So, I not completely, but I made huge modifications to my presentation just last night because I had some new ideas, some new thoughts, some new distinctions I wanted to share with you that I arrived at while driving here. I drove here technically from Las Vegas, but really from Spokane, Washington. Quite a drive. It was 2,500 miles in 5 days. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But before I get into all that and we talk about copywriting, remember I asked you earlier today who would like to know how to turn words into money. How many people would like to know that? Say yes. Yes. Okay, awesome. So before we get into that, I want to talk about, just for a moment, what you expect to happen. Because so far, it's been an awesome event. You've learned a lot of great stuff. You've been inspired. You've started thinking already about what you're going to do, or maybe you've already started doing it on your business so you can make more money. You got a dream that brought you here. But how many have been to some kind of internet marketing conference before this one? Raise your hand. Okay. How many have never been to any kind of event like this ever? You have no idea what to expect. Raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a preview. Look around the room and watch the response to the next question I'm going to ask. How many of you expect that before I finish today, I'm going to offer something for sale? Raise your hand. Okay, look around. Keep the hands up. Keep the hands up. I promise not to disappoint you. I do want to ask your permission on something, though. I want to tell you what my promise is. I promise you that for the next, I've got 90 total minutes, so I promise you that for the next 80 minutes or so, I'm going to do my level best to give you as much information and as many strategies and tactics that convey to you how to turn words into money as I possibly can, that you can start using even while you're still in the room. I promise you that I'm going to do my level best to do that. That's one of the reasons I changed my presentation. I put some new things in here because I wanted to share them with you. That's my promise to you. I want you to go through this entire weekend, and I'm kind of throwing down the gauntlet for the other speakers. I want you to go through this entire weekend, and when you get to the end of the weekend, I want you to say, wow, Ray gave me the most value that anybody gave me the entire weekend. Is that okay with you? Say yes. Yes. All right. So here's what I'd like to ask your permission. The last 10 minutes or so of my presentation, I'm going to describe an opportunity. I actually only have 3 slots available. It's not going to be for most people in the room. So the reason I'm telling you this now is I just want to get it out of the way. Because some people are sitting here right now thinking, well, I'm sure he's going to give me some good information, and I'm sure he's going to try to sell me something, so I've kind of got to be on my guard a little bit. And what I'm inviting you to do is to let down your guard, because I'm telling you right now it's probably not right for you. And that's okay. And Ken's back there going, what? What are you talking about? It's okay. Because I'm here to deliver value, and I believe that the world works in a way that if you deliver enough value to other people, it'll come back to you. Who agrees with me? Say yes. Yes. Awesome. So do I have your permission to operate from that space? Yes, sir. Cool. So who the heck is Ray Edwards? You heard a little bit. You heard my introduction. I started out in the radio business, and I did that for over 25 years. I started as a disc jockey. I became a program director, basically the guy who told the other disc jockeys what to do, and kind of the head disc jockey. And then I became an operations manager and a general manager of a station, then a group of stations, and then a vice president for the 3rd largest radio broadcasting company in America, a company called Citadel Broadcasting Company. Has anybody in here heard of Citadel? Holy cow. Like 3 or 4 people. You worked there?
I worked in radio.
You worked in radio, so you've heard of Citadel. Okay, all right. So, however, well, I'll get to more about why I'm not in radio anymore. I loved that business, by the way. I fell in love with it as a kid. I would listen to AM radio at night. I used to listen to Larry King back when Larry King, his radio show was about UFOs and Bigfoot. Yep. Did anybody in here know that? Somebody knew that, yeah. Yeah, I used to love to listen to that, and I thought, I can't believe that guy makes a living doing that. Because I talk about this stuff all the time for free. And I thought that would be a cool way to make a living. So I got into the radio business. I am a marketing consultant. That's one of the ways that I was able to excel in radio, because I was more than just a disc jockey. I was more than just an ad copywriter. I was more than just a manager. I wanted to actually help people in their businesses make more money, because I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My mom had her own business. My grandfather had his own business. My uncles had their own businesses. My aunt even had her own business. And I say aunt, I grew up saying ant, and then my son went to college and told me an ant was an insect. So I had to start saying aunt, so I consciously chose to change the way I pronounce that word. But I worked with our clients. I started studying direct marketing. Anybody heard of a guy named Jay Abraham? Say yes. Yes. Okay, so I started studying Jay Abraham, and I was different than the other radio geeks, because I would go to our clients, even when I was just a disc jockey, and I would talk to them about, I would say things like, I've been listening to Jay Abraham late at night the night before on cassette tape. Anybody remember those? And so I'd be listening to Jay Abraham, and I'd go into a client meeting the next day, and I'd say, what you really need to think about is the net marginal lifetime value of a customer. And they would say, wow, I don't even know what that means, but I'm impressed. And they thought I was a genius. And of course, I was standing on the shoulders of other people who had gone before me, just like you guys are. That's why you're here. And so I quickly accelerated and became more than an ad guy or a radio guy, but became a marketing consultant. Because I came from that entrepreneurial background, I understood something that other radio and other advertising salespeople did not understand. And that was, nobody was interested in, quote, getting their name out there. Anybody ever heard that phrase? Let me tell you how that phrase was invented. It was invented by media salespeople to explain why what they sell does not work. Because you would spend tens of thousands of dollars on a media campaign. Some of you who are business people and who have done this are nodding your heads right now going, yep, been there, done that. And so it wouldn't work. And you would talk to your sales rep, and what would they say? Well, you're getting your name out there. Thanks. I can't spend that at the grocery store, but it's nice. $1 million copywriter, what does that mean? It means that copy that I've written has actually brought in $1 million. Single pieces of copy have brought in $1 million or more. You heard about the real estate launch. I'll share with you some of those success stories. Professional speaker, published author, and I put on seminars. So that's just some of my background. So I've been doing this stuff for a while, and I've got a variety of experience. And I put this in here. Who can guess what this is a picture of? This is the car you too can drive if you're successful in internet marketing. It's a 1977 Chevrolet Chevette. It's actually, hopefully, you'll do better than this. This was my first car. And it was what we politely referred to in the hills of Kentucky as a piece of work. A piece of work. Yes, it was a piece of work. And it was a horrible car. And it had a hole in the passenger floorboard so that when I drove down the highway, if it had been raining, water would spray up into the passenger cabin, which also contributed to the very funky odor that this car had. When you got in it, you're like, man, what have you been eating? It was awful. That's not actually a picture of my exact car. Imagine this, I didn't actually keep a picture of that exact car that I had, the first car ever. But I found this is even more shocking. And again, this tells you the power of the internet. And if you're wondering, well, I don't know if I'm in a business where I can actually sell stuff on the internet, I actually found this picture on a website devoted to enthusiasts for the Chevrolet Chevette. So I don't care how weird you think your market is, I promise you it's not as screwed up as that one. These are the radio stations that I ran in Spokane, Washington. That's where I live now. Well, yeah! Thank you, Frank. 7 radio stations inside that building. That's it doesn't look like much, but that's after we spent $1.1 million remodeling it. So imagine what it looked like before. Citadel Communications Corporation, those are the stations. Why did I get out of the radio business? Because it's over. Game over. It doesn't have to be if they would only figure out that they need to change what they think they're selling, but that's a story for a different time. There is a lesson in this, however. I spent some amount of time trying to educate people in radio about how they could change the industry and stay in step with the times. Who knows that it's a fruitless task trying to change people's minds when they are married to the idea that they've fallen in love with? So I finally decided, you know what? I'm just going to go hang out with people who already know the story. Because I had been using internet marketing techniques to market our radio stations and grow our revenue and grow our ratings and grow our client businesses. And I realized I don't have to hang out with these turkeys anymore. And I say that lovingly. A lot of my really good friends are still in this business. It's ironic. In the last 60 days, 3 of the people that I respect most in the radio business, who are well-known names within the industry, have called me and said, can you explain to me again what it is you do? Because I think I'm over this business. Some of these people were the people who told me I was crazy to leave in the first place. So I knew that the internet equals freedom. Freedom. Because I have a core belief that freedom is what we're all really here for. How many people came here because you want to make more money? Say yes. Yes. All right. How many people are here because what you really want is a nice big collection of little rectangular pieces of paper with the pictures of dead people on them? No. I mean, not for its own sake, right? Not bad, no. How much would you be willing to pay for little rectangular pieces? So my point is this. I don't believe money's really what you're after. I believe you're after something deeper. It's about what money means to you. And that may be different for each of us. You see, we will all do the same thing. We'll all come to an internet marketing conference, for instance. But we came here for different reasons. Some came here because they've lost their job. Maybe you came here because your job is crushing your soul. I promise you there are people in this room who are in that position. Maybe you came here because you're bored. You just want a new project. Maybe you came here because you just want to meet with old friends. Maybe you came here because you want to make new friends. There's lots of reasons why we're all here. I believe, however, we're motivated, most of us, by a core need, and that is we want freedom. Freedom to determine our life. Freedom to determine what is in our life. To determine who we hang out with, when we hang out with them, why we hang out with them, who we help. Who in here has part of your dream, at least, is about helping other people? Look around, put their hands up and look around the room. See, I love that about you. And I love that about me, too. I love that about all of us. I believe our Creator put that inside of us. And that's the core of who we are, to have the freedom to do those things. So, one manifestation of freedom, and I don't mean manifestation in the spooky, secret way. How many people, I won't put you on the spot like this. Let's just say this. I love what Carrie had to say about The Secret. And I don't believe it's the law of attraction. I believe it's the law of action. Right? Oh, I got an amen. Who believes that? Say yes. Yes. All right, cool. We can hang out together. So, for me, one meeting of freedom was to get a motorhome and to travel around the country with my wife and go see whatever we wanted to see, to visit with people we love, to see the beautiful parks that are part of America, the national parks, the natural wonders, and to be able to run my business from that. And that's what we've been doing now for a little over a month. We're on a 3-month tour. And this is I call this the copywriting motorhome, or alternatively, the house that copywriting built. So, that domicile is parked not far from here, and my wife is there. There she is, love of my life, that's Lynn. And this picture was taken at Disneyland, which we did that a little over a week ago. And so we had this inspiration. A friend of mine said, since I know what you're doing, I know you're going to go from coast to coast, and I know you're going to be speaking at JV Alert, what if you went to both Disneys, like within the same 2-week period? You could call it Double Disney. So that's part one of Double Disney. A big fan of Disney and their parks and the whole experience that they create. This is my son. I'm just sharing all this stuff with you because I believe that there becomes a false separation at events like this. Not this one specifically, I think less so, but at many events like this, I believe there becomes a false separation. The separation, the deception, not intentional most of the time. Mostly I think we deceive ourselves. We think, the person up there has got something that I don't have. I'm here to tell you, I don't. You can do anything that any other human has done. I believe that. I don't know where I picked this up, but I'm a big believer in the power of words, as you might imagine. And somebody said to me one time, nothing human is alien to you. And so I submit the same thing to you. Nothing human is alien to you. And put that into your vocabulary, into the things that you habitually say to yourself, because that's the first step to getting whatever it was that brought you here. Whatever it is that you're after, the first step is actually believing it. I know that sounds trite, but it's true. So this is my son, and I just want to tear down that wall of separation and let you know that even though we may live in different places, we may have different life circumstances, we may have different stories to tell, we are essentially the same. And so the biggest sale that I hope to make here today has no dollars attached to it. and I want you to feel this now. The biggest sale that I want to make today is to sell you something called hope, that you can achieve what it was that brought you here. This is my son. He's 22. He's going to school in Redding, California now. He's already finished his college degree. He's going to a school of ministry. And this was on a vacation that we took a couple of weeks long to visit his grandparents in Michigan a couple of years ago. One of the primary drivers in my life is to be able to provide options for him to be able to do things like what he's doing right now. This is me chatting with Jack Canfield at an event that I helped him sell out. Jack Canfield, one of the co-authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books and the creator of that whole empire. This is Eleanor Parker. I know what you're thinking. Some of you are saying, now wait a minute, Eleanor Parker was a movie star. She is a movie star. Many home videos have been made starring Eleanor Parker. She's a crossbreed. She's a pug Boston Terrier mix. She's traveling with us in the motorhome. And this is her half-brother, Rollo Tomasi. We call him Rollo for short. Anybody in here know where that name comes from? Yes, LA Confidential. Rollo Tomasi is the guy who got away with it. Trust me, he gets away with it all the time. For instance, here we are walking on the beach around Santa Barbara, California. Rollo doesn't like to walk for very long distances in the hot weather. So he rides in the backpack. Yeah, I know. So here's some other representations of freedom. It's easy for me to say. And it may be different for you. I'm here to tell you something. While I don't believe stuff is nearly as important as we make it, I think it's okay to have fun with stuff. Who agrees? Say yes. So for me, for a long time, because I started out with the 1977 Chevrolet Chevette, one of my dreams that represented freedom was to own a Jaguar. There it is. Who knows that often wanting something is much better than actually having it? This is one of those cases. The Chevette was a better car. But this one got me a lot more looks when I went to the UPS store. This is my wife and I in Scotland on a different trip that we took. And I'm not here to tell you what to believe. That's up to you completely. So please understand that I respect that. But true freedom in my experience comes through Jesus Christ. And I have made a commitment to always acknowledge that so that I never get my priorities messed up. So, how do we get freedom? We get it by taking immediate action. I hope that this has been drilled into your head now. I've heard so many people speaking here this weekend already who've, I think, made this point abundantly clear. Thinking about it, wishing for it, hoping for it, studying home study courses, that's all good. But until you actually do something, nothing's going to happen. Who believes that's true? Say yes. Here's my belief. I think you're only one sales letter away from financial freedom. Just one sales letter. Who knows what a sales letter is? Raise your hand. Okay? Now, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but just so I know how I can best serve you, who does not really know 100% what a sales letter is? Raise your hand. Okay, a couple people. I respect that, and I mean that. Thank you, because at a conference like this, that's a tough thing to do. Raise your hand and say, oh, I don't really know. Seen those long scrolling websites like the one that sold you the ticket to this event? Got a big headline up at the top, and you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and eventually you think, who reads all this crap? Anybody seen one of those? That's a sales letter. Well, first of all, I confess, I'm one of the people who reads it all, and there are some of us there. And there are people who don't read it all, and they form a big part of the audience, and we'll talk about what we do about those folks. But a sales letter brings wealth. We saw a website just a little bit earlier, and I got in here late because I was getting my orthodontist appointment made, just to be completely transparent with you. But the site that we saw when I saw it up on the screen, I didn't hear the preamble, but I thought, this guy needs a couple of sales letters. Because the sales letter serves the reader best because it speaks to them about exactly what they're interested in. By the way, that's who reads all that. Somebody who's interested. Because let's take a quick survey, and I want you to notice the reactions of people in the room. Anybody who has ever looked at a long sales letter and thought, not interested, and quit reading before you were finished, raise your hand. Look around. Okay. Now, next question. I'm looking for anyone who has, on occasion, found a sales letter and been riveted by it and read the whole darn thing. Look around. Same people. Who has bought in both situations, where you didn't finish the sales letter completely, you just jumped to the end and bought, and who is also either way, either that way, or you've bought because you read the whole darn thing? Raise your hand. Look around. Okay, so what have we learned? Sales letters make sales. Many times, even if the person doesn't read the whole darn thing. One sales letter away from financial freedom. This is a friend of mine now. Started out as a client, Dr. Andrew Jones. He's a veterinary doctor in Canada, eh? He's made lots of progress since the first time I met him. The laughing people apparently are either from Canada or know somebody who's from Canada. So Dr. Andrew called me up. It was near Christmas one year, and he said, I was in an airport, and he said, I need some help. I have this website. I'm trying to sell homeopathic dog and cat remedies on the internet. And I thought, well, it's my lucky day. So I continued to talk with him, and I found out he's a veterinary doctor. And I said, well, you understand you're not helping your business out here any. You're telling people how to cure their own animals. And then he shared with me his commitment to the health and well-being of our beloved pets, and how he felt that he was on a mission, and that this is a whole long story that goes with that. But I thought, I kind of like this guy, and I think he's onto something here. So we rewrote his copy for his ebook that he was selling for, I think it was about $27, and he went from making no sales, very, very few sales. I think he's making like a couple $100 a month, to making about $1,500 a month with a simple ebook. It was just a couple of years ago. So anybody who tells you you can't make money selling ebooks, that's wrong. So he called me. Now, Andrew is one of these guys that he has this curious quality about him. When you tell him to do something, can you guess what he does? He just does it. He's like, okay, I'll do that. So he called me up and he said, well, now what do I do? I want to make more money. And I said, well, you need to have a course. And he said, well, how do I do that? And frankly, at this time in the development of my business, I wasn't really taking on a lot of consulting clients, and I didn't really have a mastermind group or a mentoring program. So I said, well, let me give you the quick rundown. Here's what you do. You make an audio CD of the book, break it up into a bunch of CDs, and then you use Camtasia and you go through the ebook and you walk people through it, and you just talk to them about the material, because he had some pictures and diagrams and things like that. And then I said, and then if you really want to do well, just take a video camera to your office and let people see you working with a dog or a cat, preferably both. And then you make that into a home study course and you charge people $300 or $400 for it. And he said, okay. And I figured, well, that's the last I'm going to hear of that. So, about a month later, he calls me up and he says, I'm done. Now what do I do? And I'd forgotten. I'm like, you're done what? He said, I made the course. I'm like, get out of here, really? And he said, yeah, that's what you told me to do. I said, so okay, next thing you need to do is a product launch. And he goes, cool, what's that? And I said, well, you got to go buy this product from Jeff Walker. Who's heard of the product launch formula? Raise your hand. Yep. So I said, you buy this course from a guy named Jeff Walker, and you study it, and you do what it says. And he says, okay. So he bought it like in the next day or so, and then he called me up and a few days later and he said, okay, I've gone through the whole course, but now I need you to tell me what to do. And so I told him, you take these pieces of Jeff's course and you put it all together, and I consulted him through his launch and helped him with his copy. He did $44,550 in his launch in that first week. Who thinks that's pretty good? Say yes. Who would like to have a week like that? Say yes. Okay. He created a $7,500 a month income. That's pretty cool, huh? Continuity program. Carrie talked about it earlier. And that's what can happen with just one sales letter. Hey, stop that. Okay, these are my really impressive clients. I'm showing them to you not to brag and say, hey, look how cool I am, because I've written copy for all these folks, most of them more than once. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to impress upon you. I know what I'm talking about, because lots of people talk about stuff in the internet marketing world, and many of them didn't know anything about it until last week. How many of you know that's true? Say yes. Not the case here. So Armin Morin up at the top. Who recognizes some of these faces? So you could probably, figure out who they are. Armin Morin, Alex Mondosian, Frank Kern. I don't know if you can figure out which one he is. Joel Comm, Jack Canfield, Jeff Walker, Ken McArthur, Mike Filsame, Kurt Christensen, Mark Victor Hansen, Matt Basek, and the sinister-looking guy down there at the bottom. Who knows who that is? Mark Joyner. He looks like the godfather of internet marketing, doesn't he? He's the coolest, most warm and loving guy. Armin Morin just recently paid me $30,000 to write copy for him. And that's cool, but I'm not telling you that again to say, hey, look how big and fancy I am. I'm doing it because I want you to understand that what I'm talking about will get results for you. And these are some checks that actually show where I was paid the amounts of money that I'm talking about. This is a launch that I did, worked with Jeff Walker on this and the guys at Membership Site Bootcamp. We did $1.71 million in just 6 days. This is not the real estate launch we were talking about earlier. That's something different. This is a Mark Victor Hansen event where we sold 500 tickets, sold out. Jack Canfield, Breakthrough to Success event, did $1.3 million in estimated ticket sales for a $3,500 seminar that he was putting on. That was pretty cool. Matt Basek said, Raise Copy was directly responsible for $1 million of my income last year. That is when Matt and I renegotiated our deal, when he said that. Like, what? Okay, so here's my secret. I told you earlier that I don't really have anything that you don't have. I don't have any potential that you don't have. What I do have that you may not have is a system for doing this. A system. Who would like the system? Before you leave here today, say yes. Yes. Cool. So, here's how I got the system. I spent $101,387, somewhere thereabouts. Probably more than that since I made this slide. I bought home study courses. Are you going to be okay, sir? I said $101,000. I thought somebody was having a fit or something. I went to live seminars and workshops, coaching programs, joined coaching clubs, mastermind group. Carrie was talking about being in a mastermind group that you pay for. And I know there are people who say, well, why would you do that? Well, I think she did a great job of explaining why. I do. I pay to be in a mastermind group. And it's worth a lot more than I actually pay for it, to tell you the truth. It gets you access, just like Carrie described. It gets you access to the Rolodex. It gets you time with people. It gets you into a peer group that's more like yourself. Does that make sense? Studied classic pieces of copy, thousands of pieces of test data and research, painful trial and error. Who thinks that sounds good? Yeah, good. Smart group, and you're still awake even after lunch. Cool. But here's the deal. $101,000 equals nothing unless I took immediate action. Who understands what I'm talking about? Say yes. Freedom comes by taking immediate action. Who would like one of those? There you go. That's what I was waiting for. Copywriting. I believe copywriting is what delivered. Now we call it copywriting because that term was born out of writing ad copy. Direct response ad copy. But what we're really talking about is a little old-fashioned thing. It's the oldest profession in the world. No, it's not that one. People. It's selling. That other one is the second oldest profession in the world. You needed the first one before you could do that. Copywriting. It's persuasion. Somebody coined the phrase and said it's persuasion in print. It's really persuasion in print. It's persuasion on the screen. It's persuasion in Twitter. It's persuasion. It's selling. It is the ultimate leverage. You can have a product or a service that is not selling well, And you can change nothing but the copy, and trust me, I know I've done it many times. You can change nothing but the copy, and the conversion rate increases. What does that mean? It just means that out of every 100 people who come to the website, who read the copy, a larger number of them actually buy. So if you put 100 people in front of a website and one person buys, what's your conversion rate? 1%. If you change the copy and now 10 of them buy, what's your conversion rate? 10%. How much more money do you make? 10 times. Did you have to make a new product? Did you have to gear up new manufacturing facilities? No. Did you have to go hire a bunch of new people? No. What did you do? You changed the copy. That is leverage. It doesn't cost you anything except the effort, or if you pay somebody to write the copy, then obviously there's a cost involved there. Who wants to know how to write the copy yourself so you don't have to do that? Say yes. Okay, cool. This is the one skill that empowers, it informs, and it accelerates all the other skills. Anything else that you may be considering doing, having, learning, whether it's viral marketing or social media or speaking at conferences or putting on seminars or selling information products, whatever it is, copywriting informs, accelerates, and empowers that. And it's like adding rocket fuel to whatever else you're doing. Because who understands and knows? How many of you know that if you increase the persuasive power of your message, whatever you're doing becomes more effective? Say yes. It gives you power over poverty. There's a lot of people, I don't know if you've heard about this, but apparently something's going on in the economy. Anybody in here hear anything about that, or is it just me? I am here to tell you, you have your own economy. And it starts right here, and it can be influenced by this skill that we're talking about, copywriting. You can create income on demand. You use copy in every communication that you're going to do in your business. Email, e-zines, autoresponders, sales letters, press releases, blog posts, download pages, thank you pages, articles. What you say when you answer the phone is copy. What is on your business card is copy. It's all copy. You need to start thinking of it that way. How does this advance my prospects through my marketing funnel in a persuasive way? It's copy. In fact, let me show you the internet if we take away copy. Now, I know all the other stuff's important. Video's important. Social media is important. Here's the internet without copy. That's what happens. It stops. Words are powerful. Are you willing to play along with me for a little bit here, for just a moment? Yes. Ask yourself a question. Take just a moment. I want you to, whatever you're focusing on right now, I want you to let that go and take just a moment, take in a deep breath, sit up in your seat. What in your life are you really thankful for? You don't have to say it out loud, just think about it. Could be family, could be a loved one, could be a gifting that you have, could be an opportunity that you have, could be your health. What are you really, really thankful for, and how does that make you feel? Think about that. You got it? Say yes. Yes. Now, who feels a little bit different than you felt 60 seconds ago? Say yes. That's the power of words. Because what do? All I did was ask you a couple of questions. That's the power of language. That's how language creates revolutions. It's how it builds companies. This nation that we're in, the United States of America, was created out of some very powerful words. They weigh heavily into people's decisions. So here's what you're going to get today. Nuts and bolts. 27 different vital, useful pieces of information. 14 elements of a sales letter. Remember we talked about how sales letters create wealth. I'm going to give you the 14 building blocks. How much time do I have left? Can somebody tell me that? The rest of the day. Okay, cool. I'm not sure how the other speakers would feel about that, but I'm okay with it. 45 minutes. Cool. Halfway then. 3 headline formulas you can use. Who's had a hard time writing a headline ever? Who's ever tried to write a headline and kind of struggled with it? Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can write 3 really good headlines in about 90 seconds. Is that okay with you? Yes. All right, cool. So we'll show you that. 9 rules for writing copy that sells. Because you don't want to just write copy that makes people think, oh, that's good copy. That's good writing. No. Anytime I show somebody some copy and they say, that's really good, I know my work is not finished. Anytime I write copy and show it to them and they say, how do I buy this? Now I know I've got something. I wrote some copy for the conference that Jack Canfield was putting on that I showed you the screenshot of earlier. And I have a proofreader that reads my copy before I send it out to clients. And then I also occasionally have my wife proofread my copy just to double check it. And she's actually a pretty good BS meter. So I have her read it, and so I tell her, any obvious mistakes, sure, tell me about those. What I'm really looking for is the part that makes you go, oh, come on. So I show her that copy. She reads it. She comes running in from the next room, and she goes, can we go? I'm like, oh, yeah. We got something here. And I'm going to show you how you can use my system. Who thinks that sounds good? Say yes. All right, here we go. We're going to rock and roll. The 14 basic elements of an online sales letter. These are not the only 14 elements. There are copywriters in the room who may say, well, there's actually 17 or there's 21. Or this is just one model of how to do it. These are elements that when I talk to people who say, well, my website's not selling, and I look at their sales letter, if they have one, but when I look at it, I say, well, you're missing this and this and this, and I can identify pieces that they're missing. So we're going to quickly today go through those pieces so that you can self-identify what may be missing from your copy. Does that sound good? Yes or yes? Okay, here we go. Write fast. Okay, you don't have to write them all down all at once because I'm going to go through the entire list and I'm going to give you a quick thumbnail explanation of what these pieces are. Okay, so this is a basic structure for a sales letter. And don't panic, because I make sure to tell you this because I've given this talk a couple of times, and somebody always panics and they're like, wait, I need to write those down. I'm going to go through them one by one. Okay, so we start at the top of the sales letter with the pre-head. And I realize this may be hard for you to read from where you're sitting in the room. That's okay. You don't have to read it. I just want you to visually get a representation of what I'm talking about. So the pre-head, this is where you have a chance to target your prime prospect for your message, grab their attention maybe. They may or may not read it. That's okay. This one says, finally end your money worries forever. It could be something as simple. Let's say you're writing a letter because you have a product that relieves pain in arthritis sufferers. So you might have a pre-head that simply says something like, attention, arthritis sufferers. Make sense? Okay. Number 2, the headline, the most important piece of copy on your website. Maybe. I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit later. The headline, this is the ad for the rest of the ad. It has one job, it's to get the reader to keep on reading, to grab their attention, to meet them where they are. This is the biggest mistake that anybody makes when writing their copy, not meeting the reader where they are. Because if you're talking about a benefit or a byproduct or an outcome from your product and that's not what brought the person to your copy, are they going to keep reading it? Are they interested? You know the answer to this. Yes or no? Are they going to keep reading if you're not talking about what they're interested in? No, of course not. So you need to meet them where they are. Gosh, gee, Ray, how am I going to know where they are? Well, you got to do your homework. It takes a little 4-letter word to get you to that point. The little 4-letter word is W-O-R-K. You got to go out and learn what it is your readers care about. You can't influence them to do something if you don't know what's important to them. Okay, element number 3. This comes right under the headline. It's called different things. I was taught, and this is the terminology that I use, it's the deck copy. It comes right underneath your headline. It reinforces the impact of the idea that you propose in your headline. Maybe it builds curiosity. Maybe it brings in some credentializing information. For instance, if your product was created by a doctor, I mean, there are very few monikers you can hang on someone that gives them more instant credibility than doctor. Am I right? Right. So this would be a good place to mention if that is true of your product, that it was created, influenced by, discovered, researched by, whatever's appropriate, a doctor. Subheads. And we're going to go into those headline formulas a little bit later, so just hang with me and I'll show you how you can write some pretty good headlines pretty fast. There is an art to writing headlines. I have a belief that the best headlines don't necessarily come from formulas. The best, how do we get the formulas? Somebody got inspired at some point and wrote something that just hit it right out of the park, and it actually worked, and it became a formula, right? So number 4, subheads. These are elements that take place all throughout the rest of your sales copy. Have you ever noticed how sales letters have like little section headers that kind of sum up what that section is about? That's the subhead, and the arrow you can see is pointing to that section of the letter. These are like a bucket brigade in your copy. You probably don't remember, I don't think there's anybody in here who can remember this, but it used to be that in villages that were built by a water source, if there was a fire, the people would line up between the water source, the lake, the stream, the water tower, and they would pass the bucket and try to put the fire out, and the bucket just kept moving up and down the line. So I don't remember who came up with this. Could have been Carl Galletti, for all I know, who came up with this terminology. Carl's saying it wasn't his fault. He didn't come up with it. But the idea that I'm trying to convey is these subheads should move your prospects through your copy. Let's say that somebody, who's ever skimmed through a sales letter, say yes. Okay, so let's say that you come to a sales letter and you skim through it. Isn't it better if the subheads, you start with the headline and you read the subheads out loud and you can kind of get the gist of what the whole thing's about? Kind of telescopes out the story. Isn't that better? That's how we capture people who are not going to read every word at least the first time through. Now your job is to make those subheads so interesting that the skimmer, the scanner, the scroller is compelled to come back and read the copy. Does that make sense? Okay, so look at your sales letter. If it's not doing that, then you want to rework it so that it is. Most sales letters, quite honestly, if you read the headline and you read the subheads out loud in sequence, it doesn't form any kind of story. It's just a disjointed bunch of hooey. That's a technical copywriting term, by the way. Hooey. The lead is the opening part of the sales letter. It's the part that comes under the dear friend. It's where you spell out who the letter is for and what they stand to gain by reading it. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but you really got to get people interested enough to want to read what you have to write. The late, great Gary Halbert had a formula for writing leads that was brilliantly simple. And it was just a matter of if, then. If, and you fill in the blank with whatever it is your prospects are really trying to do, what they're trying to get, have, or be, then this could be the most important letter you've ever read, or the most important website you've ever read. Do you get the idea of how that works? So it would go like this. If you were selling a weight loss product, it would be something like, if you've struggled with being overweight and you've tried every kind of pill, potion, lotion, exercise program, and you still can't take those pounds off, if you're tired of looking like a big fat blob, if you wish you could finally take those pounds off and get back to those six-pack abs, and you've just about given up hope, then I've got good news for you. This may be the most important website you've ever read. Here's the story. It's as simple as that. Can you see how you could fill in the blanks with your product or service? Yes. Yes, say yes. Okay. Number 6. This is not really a distinct element or section as much as it is a property that your copy needs to have, and that's the property of developing something called rapport. And what is rapport? It's simply where you feel that you're in sync with someone. You feel like they understand you. Have you ever met somebody at an event like this, for instance, and you start having a conversation with them, and as you're talking to them, you feel like, wow, this person gets me. They understand me, right? And they rub you the right way. You have with that person something called, say it with me, rapport. You ever met somebody that rubs you the wrong way? They don't have no rapport. Are you going to listen to them if they're trying to sell you something? Not very darn likely. Right? So how do you demonstrate that you know the reader's pain? How do you demonstrate that you understand their problem? How do you develop that rapport? You use their language. You speak about it in the way in which they speak. And, I could spend 2 hours talking about how to do this, but I'll give you a shorthand method. And this is go hang out where they hang out. That could be online forums. It could be certain websites. Go read what they read. You got to do some homework and know your audience. Is that becoming more and more clear to you? Yes? That you've got to know your audience. You've got to know who you're writing for. Look for the things they talk about that frustrate them, the things that bother them, the problems that they want a solution for. Look for phrases like, I wish somebody would make blank. I wish somebody would just tell me in simple terms how to fill in the blank, whatever it is. That is key language, and especially if you see it repeated more than once, that lets you speak in their words, using their phrases. And when somebody talks like us, what do we think? They get me. They understand me. I relate to that person. Right? That's rapport. Number 7, you've got to have credibility. Because what's the number one thing that's on your mind when you're reading some miracle website that promises to solve your problem? You're thinking, I don't know. I wonder if this is true. This sounds too good to be true. Exactly. So you've got to very quickly establish your credibility. Why should they believe you? In fact, a good way to start a section that's going to handle this challenge for you in getting across your credibility is to start it by saying, well, who am I and why should you even believe me? Who has seen that before in a sales letter? Say yes. Now, so you might want to come up with some different language, or you might not. Maybe you might want to use what works. Just a thought. So this is from one of my websites. This is when I was looking for copywriter for hire type business. On this site, I listed the people that I had written copy for. Big credibility builder, because if Frank Kern and Mark Victor Hansen and Alex Mondosian and Willie Crawford had me write copy for them, then pretty good bet that I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. This is my copywriter for hire website, and there's a testimonial from Mark Victor Hansen up at the top. Does that give me more credibility? Yes or yes? Makes me stand out from other copywriters? Yes. So sometimes a testimonial like this can actually serve as your headline. Now be careful about that. I always give this warning. Don't go out and do this unless you're certain you know what you're doing, because you're probably better served by having a standard headline. Now I tested every element that you see on here. I tested the results that I got from this page. I tested the graphic banner. I tested the testimonial from Mark Victor Hansen, the pictures and so forth. So it's all proven result-getting stuff. Number 8, bullets. Who knows what I'm talking about when I talk about bullets on a website? Okay. One of the biggest, I believe, problems with most copy that I see is not enough bullets. Not enough bullets. And the bullets need to be about the actual benefits that people will receive from your product or your service or your information, not just features of it. You know, if you're selling a car and it's a convertible, then a feature of it is the roof retracts. Well, whoopee. Who cares? But the roof retracts, and what that means to you is you can enjoy the sunshine as you tool down the road, and you'll look sexier and you'll feel younger. It'll remind you of the good old days when the wind was blowing through your hair. So that puts you right there. Those are benefits. And the reason I believe that most people don't have enough bullets is because they haven't really thought about what the benefits of their product really are. They haven't really gotten to know their prospects. They haven't really gotten to know their audience. They don't know how to write those bullets that convey what the real benefits of their product or service is. So I would submit to you that you need more bullets. Who has a sales letter up online right now? Raise your hand. Okay, keep your hands up if you have at least 10 bullet points in your sales letter. If you don't have at least 10, put your hand down. If you don't have at least 20, put your hand down. If you don't have at least 30, put your hand down. So it's not really that many. I'm not going to give you a number and say, well, you must have at least this number of bullets, because in some cases you need more, in some cases you need less. But my point is, if you've only got 10 bullets on your sales letter, you probably haven't really thought about what the benefits of your product are. Testimonials. Third-party proof. You ever watch an infomercial? Who's ever seen an infomercial? Say yes. Yes. Who knows that most of the infomercial is what? Testimonials. Why do you suppose that is? It works. Because we believe those people, right? Who can tell instantly a fake testimonial? Raise your hand if you instantly know a fake testimonial when you see one in an infomercial. Because they're too smooth, right? There's a certain quality about them, and you can just tell. They're too polished. It's like they hired an actor, because that's what they did. That's illegal, by the way. Don't do that. The best testimonial you can have on your sales letter is a video testimonial. And the best kind of video testimonial is one that's unscripted in most cases, not in all cases, but as a generalization, in most cases, because it feels more real. If you can't have a video testimonial, then at the very least, have an audio testimonial with a picture of the person. Let's say you see a testimonial on a website, and let's say it was this testimonial, and it said, his track record is stellar. And it had the guy's picture, or maybe it didn't have the guy's picture, and instead of having his name, it said TB from New York. TB from New York. Who would believe that's a real testimonial? I mean, most of us think, well, that's fake, right? So this is the reason why you want to have as much information as possible. In fact, I'll tell you something that works. You may have a little trouble convincing your testimonial givers to do this for you, but if you can put their phone number in the testimonial, that works. And because people believe that. And yes, some people will call the phone number. So you can actually set up a voicemail. You can use a service like K7.net, just a letter K, number 7.net. They provide a free internet voicemail box. And you can have your person who's giving you the testimonial leave a message. It says, hey, you're probably calling because you saw that I left a word or two about product X on the website, and just to keep myself from getting overwhelmed with calls, I just want to let you know, yes, I'm actually a real person. Yes, the testimonial is true, and have them say whatever's on their heart to say for you. But that's a way to keep them from being inundated with phone calls. Number 10, value justification. You've got to explain why this product is worth what I say it's worth. And you do that by dollarizing the value of what you're selling. What do I mean by dollarizing the value? Well, let's say that you have a product, maybe it's an information product or a service, that teaches people how to save money on their home mortgage. Now, there's plenty of products like this that are available. Let's say that you have one and you're teaching people how to save. If they use your methods, they can save $233,000 on their home mortgage. If you can demonstrate that through proof, through testimonials, through math, through walking through a process, through whatever proof elements you can introduce, and you can show them the actual dollar value, then when you get ready to say, with an average lifetime savings on home mortgages of $233,000, that makes this course at $997 a bargain. And you're contrasting the $233,000 against the $997. There's a big difference, and it's an extreme difference, but I think you see my point. You dollarize the benefits of your offer. Number 11 is the risk reversal. I didn't invent this term. I believe J. Abraham actually is the guy who invented this terminology. You may know it as a guarantee, but the whole point of the guarantee is to take the risk off the shoulders of your prospect and put the risk on your shoulders. You're saying, I'm the one taking all the risk here. Here's a suggestion. Don't use the word risk in your guarantee. How many of you have seen a guarantee online that says it's our 100% no risk guarantee? Yes. Seen that? Yeah. So let's see. If I wasn't thinking about it before, what word is now in my mind? Risk. You don't suppose there's a risk, do you? So you want to find different language, but you definitely want to accomplish the goal of removing and transferring the risk from them to you. Now, through testing, I have found that it is good to include the language 100% money back guarantee. Because for some people, that is actually, this is my belief. I don't know for sure why it works. I have a belief about why it works. My belief is that for some people, that is code language for, this is the only way I'm safe. If it doesn't say 100% money back guarantee, I'm not safe. So for those people, you want to include the language. But for everybody else who they've heard that over and over again and it's become audio or visual wallpaper for them, you want to find a different way of verbalizing it that is more meaningful. Fresh language. So here's one example from one of my websites. This is, by the way, it's inside a certificate. Test after test has shown that online, putting your guarantee inside a certificate can and usually does boost your conversion rates. Because why? Well, because things inside a certificate they're official, aren't they? When you graduated, what did you get? You got a certificate. It's official. Again, that's a theory about why it works. I'm not really sure, but I think that's why it works. So for this one, it's the I'll buy it back guarantee. So they get the product for 30 days, and then if for any reason they're not completely delighted, I'll buy it back from them at full price. Well, gosh, how is that really substantially any different from a 30-day money-back guarantee? It isn't, but I'll buy it back is different language. It breaks through the I've heard it filter before. Number 12, bonus items. A lot of people screw this up in two different ways. One way is by giving way too many. Now, I think it's fine to give your prospects lots of bonuses. If you have, 7 bonuses that are valuable and truly fit your offer, then give them 7 bonuses. But have you ever seen one of these book promotions where there's like 500 different bonus items and they have a total value of $1.7 million, all downloadable? I'm not saying that there isn't value in those offers because I've bought because there's things that I want. But my point is, I think you've got to think about whether it's helping your case or not. So, what do I suggest? I suggest that you give a handful of powerful bonuses that add value to your offer and are related to your offer. Because here's the deal. If you're selling an ebook of chicken recipes, and if you buy it today, I'll give you this free report on search engine tactics, who realizes there's a little disconnect going on there? So you want it to be related to your offer, and you want it to enhance the value of your offer. So, for instance, if you were selling a stock trading system, and you had a set of spreadsheets that you use to analyze the stocks that you should buy or sell, who knows that adds value to the stock trading system? Yes. So that would qualify as a valuable bonus, and it's related to your initial offer. These are some bonuses for the Mark Victor Hansen Mega Book Marketing Seminar that I wrote the copy for. And they get 5 different items, and each of them is related to the seminar, and each of them enhances the value of the seminar. And some of them were very attractive to people who were buying tickets. For instance, the $1 Million Publishing Rolodex is one of the most popular bonuses. Because obviously anybody who's written a book, what do they want? They want that Rolodex. They want those contacts. They want to know, who can I call? Who's got power, influence in the book publishing world? Number 13 is the offer, or the call to action. Who in here has been through sales training? Raise your hand. Any kind of sales training. All right, so one of the hardest things to do for most salespeople is make the presentation and then do what? Close. Ask for the order. Here's my belief about this. We're trained from a young age. There's a couple of things we should never do. Many of us were taught this by our parents. Don't talk to and never ask for. And when we're selling, we're talking to strangers, asking them for money. And I heard somebody else say that once. I didn't come up with that idea. I don't remember who it was, but I know this. I believe it's true. I believe there's a deep psychological training effect that happened there for most of us. So we're shy about that. But if you've got something truly valuable that you're offering to the world, if it really saves money, if it really helps them be healthier, if it enhances relationships, if it gives them more personal or financial freedom, if it gives them more peace of mind, if it protects their online security, whatever your product or service does, if it truly does that and it's going to make an improvement in their life, don't you owe it to them to be as persuasive as possible to get them to take the offer? Don't you owe it to them to explain in no uncertain terms, look, this is exactly what I've got, this is exactly what it does for you and why you need to get it, and here's how to get it, here's what to do right now. Does that make sense? So that's what you need to do in your call to action. This is where you ask for the order and you tell the reader what to do. I know this is basic stuff, and maybe you're thinking, I've heard this before. But my question to you is think about your own website and ask, am I really doing all this as effectively as I possibly could? And I can guarantee that for most people the answer is no. That's the answer. So, in your call to action, you want to, in bullet point fashion, spell out the benefits of your offer. You want to reconnect them to all the good stuff that's going to happen for them, all the good things that they're going to become and be and do and have when they have your product in shorthand fashion because they've already read the letter. You're summarizing it. You're speaking in affirmative language in their voice. Notice up at the top, you've seen this before probably on many of these kinds of web pages where it'll say something like, yes, Mark, reserve my spot at your Megabook Marketing University, March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in Los Angeles, California. Well, there's power in speaking in the person's own voice in an affirmative manner. Now, I don't believe that you're like turning them into a robot, but when we're reading something like that, we're speaking the words in our mind. Yes or yes? And we're saying yes, and we're saying that we want to reserve our spot, and then you go into all the stuff that they're going to get as a result. Element number 14, and you have a button there that says, by the way, buy. Click here, put in your credit card information, and grab your seat while it's available, or get your download while you can, or whatever is appropriate for your product or service. Number 14 is the PS, another often overlooked and misused element of sales copy. Okay, so first of all, if you're the person who has 18 PSs on your sales letter, stop that. That's just crazy. I typically only use one. I have tested and used more than that. I found either 1 or 3 seems to work best. I don't have enough test data to really empirically support that as a rule, but I would suggest to you that 1 is good enough. And what you want to do in your PS is just sum up the top benefit of your product for your readers and give them a link back to the call to action. Now, here's the reasoning behind why I believe this is so important. Somebody comes to your website. We've already established that one of the first things that we're going to do when we come to a website is we're going to look at the headline, decide if it's interesting, then we're going to scroll down through the copy, right? We're scrolling toward the bottom looking for the price. And like, what does this cost? It looks interesting, but how much is it? So it's quite possible that the first thing they're going to see is the bottom of your website right after they see your headline where your PS is. So here's an opportunity to grab their attention. It's almost, if you think of it like this, it'll be more powerful for you. It's almost like another headline, leading them back up the page. Okay, so that's the 14 elements. Who's ready for 3 winning headline formulas you can use today? Say yes. Yes. All right. Here's formula number 1. Give me, and then the red type is the fill in the blank part, small investment in time or effort. You probably want to write all this down so that you get how to use these formulae. Give me small investment in time or effort, and I'll give you big results fast, whatever those results are for your product or service. So here's an example of how you might use this formula. Give me 3 minutes a day, and I'll give you a Harvard vocabulary. Sounds pretty cool. I think I'd like me one of those. Who thinks you could write a headline for your product or service using that formula? Say yes. What about the rest of you? Who thinks you could write a headline for your product or service using that formula? Say yes. Cool. Headline formula number 2. If you can, and the fill-in part is something easy, then you can, and the fill-in part is big results promised by your product. Okay, while you're writing that down, I'll show you an example of how to use that. If you can, copy and paste, then you can write killer sales copy that sells like crazy. Now, don't take that as permission to go steal somebody's sales copy. This would be for a specific product. Okay, got that one? If you can something easy, then you can big results promised by your product. Okay, I'm going to move on. Headline formula number 3. Proven system. This one is a little more, you got to think about this one a little bit more to see how it works. Proven system, and the fill-in is active statement of main benefit. Active statement of main benefit. What that means is it actually does something that gets you the benefit that you want. Okay? And does it in, and then the fill-in is a specific time frame or number of steps. So while you're writing that down, I'll read it one more time for those of you who are having trouble seeing the screen. Probably a little small at the back of the room. Proven system, and the fill-in is active statement of main benefit, and does it in, and then the fill-in is specific time frame or steps. So the example would be proven software generates killer headlines and does it at the touch of a button. So you can see how you could modify that for your own product or service. And that's what I would encourage you to do. So if you've been following along, in about 90 seconds, now that you understand how this worked, you could probably write 3 killer headlines in about 90 seconds. Now, who thinks that was easy? Raise your hand. Sit up in your chairs. Okay, if a cell phone goes off, we're going to hold an auction for charity. But mine already went off, didn't it? So I don't guess I can say that. I'm just looking now to see if my wife called me back. Okay, I'm good. 9 rules of writing copy that sells. We're going to go through these one at a time. You want to write them down as we go. We're going to go pretty fast because I'm running close on time, but I want to make sure you get everything I promised you. Copywriting rule number 1. Use all 14 of the basic elements every time. Every time. If you're missing one, put it in. And if you test it, here's the caveat. If you test it and you test it without one of the elements and that does better, then you're cool. Because the person voting with their credit card is the ultimate decider of what works. Am I right? Say yes. Okay. Copyright rule number 2. Think first of your reader. Most people will tell you that's what they were thinking of, but they will be wrong. So you've got to really spend some time thinking this through. Copywriting rule number 3. Use short words. This is not the place nor the time to show off your Harvard vocabulary. Copywriting rule number 4. Use short sentences. Especially on the web. People have shorter attention spans. Why do you think Twitter is so popular? One reason is it forces us to be more concise. Copywriting rule number 5. Use short paragraphs. If you go into a bookstore and you pick up a book and you flip through the first few pages and the text is just from side to side and top to bottom with no paragraph breaks and no line breaks, and you flip through 2 or 3 pages like that, does that look easy or hard to read? Hard to read. It's even more so on the web. You want to give them plenty of white space, and one of the ways you do that is you use short paragraphs. Yes, your college English professor is probably not going to approve of what you're doing, but it'll get people to read your message more thoroughly. Copywriting rule number 6, sell readership first. That's the first sale you've got to make. Why should I spend my time reading this copy? Is the question that, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, that's the question that people are asking. Why should I bother? Sell readership first. What am I going to get out of reading it? Rule number 7, repeat your core message with consistency. This doesn't mean write the same thing over and over again and bore people to death, but it does mean that you want to get that core message across, and you can't just say it one time and hope that it gets through. You've got to repeat it with consistency. Let's try a little experiment. Who in here can tell me the recipe for a Big Mac? Go. Special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Why do we remember those things? Because they were repeated with consistency. That's why. Rule number 8. Write about your readers' aspirations. In other words, what do they hope to be, to have, to do? Write about those. Now, of course, writing about them presumes that you know about them. And the only way you're going to know about them is to know your audience. And that's rule number 9. Know thy market. One of the biggest blunders you can make, and if you've ever written a piece of copy and it just wasn't a home run, then chances are, at some level, this is what happened. You didn't really understand what the market wanted. So here's what you've got so far. 14 elements of a basic sales letter, 3 headline formulas you can use, 9 rules of writing copy that sells. Who can take something that they've learned today, walk out of here, and use it before the end of the day? Who thinks they're able to do that? Say yes. Okay. Who wants to know how to really put my system to use and make some real money with it? Say yes. Okay, so these are my clients again. These are some of the success stories that we talked about earlier. And I said to you earlier, you're just one sales letter away from financial freedom. We talked about Dr. Jones and what he was able to accomplish, about what Armin Morin had to say, about my renegotiated deal with Matt Basak. Here's how you can use my system. And freedom comes by doing what? Taking immediate action. So here are your options, in my view. You can educate yourself just like I did. That's one option. The second option is you can hire a professional copywriter to do it for you. That's certainly another option. And I applaud that if that's what you are called to do and that works for you in your business. It doesn't work for everybody. Or you can use the same system that I use. Option number 1, if you educate yourself like I did, I've already described the process that I went through, that I invested over $101,000 in educational materials to learn the things that I've learned. And I continue to do that to this day. I'm a perpetual student of marketing and copywriting. Option number 2 is you could hire a professional copywriter. And there are different levels of copywriters. There are different levels of fees that they charge. I can tell you that the people who are really good at what they do tend to charge quite a bit of money because they know that there's a return on that investment for their customers and their clients. The first thing you're going to have to do with one of those copywriters is qualify to be able to be a client. Because, for instance, I will write only for 4 clients in 2009. And 2 of them were already booked up. So the reason is I spend time on each project. And I have a residual income interest in those projects, so I am rewarded for spending more time on those projects. And that's going to be the case with most top-level copywriters. So it's hard to get on the schedule. Second, if you can get on the schedule, you usually find they're booked months, sometimes even years in advance. So you may have to wait. And then the third thing is the price. And prices vary. I can tell you right now, my rates are very simple. $30,000 and 10% of gross revenue, period. And I've already showed you the checks. Option number 3 is to use the same system I use. And I've walked you through parts of it step by step. I've got a complete blueprint for doing what I do. It's easy to use, and I'm about to show you how for a very few people, and I mean that, you're going to see that it's not just hyperbole, it's not just a scarcity play. Just for a few people who it's right for, I'm going to make it available that you can get my personal help. So we're talking about, first of all, there's my course, Web Copywriting Explained. This is the first component of what I'm making available to you today. This consists of 8 modules. Module 1 is on sales letter structure. And there's about 3 hours worth of audio. There's an hour-long video. There's, I think it's about 60 pages of written material that goes with this. And this is what we covered today. We just covered the tip of the iceberg today. I just gave you kind of a preview of what's in there. You can definitely use what I showed you today, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. Module 2 is an in-depth study of headlines, deck, and subhead copy. Module 3 is email marketing. Module 4 is about bullet points, where I give you 21 bullet point formulas that you can use in your sales letters. Module 5 is the triad method of selling. Module 6 is audio and video copy explained. Module 7 is AdWords and PPC copy. Module 8 is about launches, promotions, and story selling, and you get lifetime digital access, $1,997. Component number 2 is the ultimate copy templates system, and you get lifetime access. In fact, we did deliver this initially as a online membership site. Now we've put it all together, and you get all the templates all at once. And that's sales letters, emails, bullet points, guaranteed copy, AdWords and PPC, product launch copy, and a whole lot more. You get all this delivered to you. You can't even buy this right now as a complete system, but if you could, our plan was to charge $29.97 for it. We're not selling it currently, but you can get it as part of this package. Component number 3, you get a personal copy critique from me. I will go through, after you've completed your sales letter, and you're confident you've gotten it as good as you can get it, then I will go through it line by line on video and break it down for you, what the opportunities for improvement are, what the things that are going to hold you back in your sales, and give you suggestions on how you can improve your conversion and your sales, and that is $2,497. So here's what we've got so far. Web Copywriting Explained, the ultimate copywriting template system, the copy critique, and component number 4 is the 6-figure copy blueprint. Who would like to be able to write a simple letter and have somebody write you a check for $30,000? Who thinks that would be a cool skill to have? Say yes. Okay, I can't guarantee that you're going to get a check for $30,000. I can guarantee that in this component of this system, I will tell you exactly how I went from a total unknown to making high 6 figures, writing copy in a matter of a couple of years. And now knowing what I know, if I were to go back, I believe I could do it a lot faster. And that's what I share in this component of the system. I take you through step by step how to get clients, how to get paid. This is the exact system that I used. And people ask me sometimes, hey, I'm a copywriter. Can I write for you? Can I work on overflow work? Can I work on projects that you can't work on? The only way I do that these days is I hire my students. The first requirement is they have to go through my material, because I found that's the only way that I can guarantee that they're going to write in the way that I would approve of. So I hire my students. Now again, this depends on you. It depends on you taking action. But if you have an aspiration for making a lot of money as a copywriter, then this is a very simple way for you to get started doing that. $1,497. Component number 5, you get a year of Q&A with Ray. You can ask any question. It's like having me as your personal consultant. It is not sold separately. Think of this, if you will, as success insurance. If you ever wondered, well, what's going to happen 6 months from now if I don't know what to do, now you've got somebody you can simply ask. $1,297. So we've got Web Copywriting Explained, the templates, the copy critique, the 6-figure copy blueprint, Q&A with Ray, and we have component number 6, a lifetime membership in the Internet Marketing Mastermind. And this is an online mastermind group that I formed with my business partner, Kurt Christensen. We have a video how-to each month on how to do a specific internet marketing skill. Like this past month, we had a module on building lists. Who would like to know how to build a big responsive list? Say yes. Well, we teach you how to do that in this month's module. There are live Q&A calls. It's actually a webinar each month. So when you call in and you want advice on a website or something, we actually go and look at the website and talk about what the opportunities for improvement are, or if you're having challenges, what those are. Or if you need to know how to use a specific tool, or how to set up a blog using WordPress. We show you how to do those kinds of things. There's a contest each month where we give away cash and prizes. And we also have a free live 2-day seminar, which we're going to be having, I believe it's in June. We haven't hammered out the final details with the hotel yet. And I think it's going to be in Las Vegas, so it's kind of a cool place to have a seminar. And at that seminar, it's just Kurt and I teaching for 2 days whatever you need to know. We've got some stuff that we want to share because we know it's been working for us. But we also are going to be responsive to our members in the mastermind group, and we're going to demonstrate for you how to do the things that we know how to do that are making us money, and also answer your questions. $34.97. Component number 7, priority access and discounts on copy. I'll be frank with you, I'm not really taking clients, new clients right now, but if I do open up, my members who are part of this program are the first people who get first right of refusal. And then finally, and this is the thing that is really only available to 3 people, and it's copywriting camp. This is where we get together for 2 days, March 2nd and 3rd, and we write your sales letter from top to bottom. Because if you've bought a sales copy course before, or a book, or DVDs, or any of that stuff, and haven't actually gotten your sales copy finished, or felt like you could use some feedback that would help you smooth it out, then you know what this is about. This is about actually getting it done. You walk in 2 days later, you walk out with a completed sales letter. This is a shot of one of the workshops we held in my office. This one is actually being held in Las Vegas, March 2nd and 3rd. There are only 3 seats left. The seats that have been sold so far, each sold for $3,000. So here's everything you're getting. A total value of $18,279, and here's the opportunity. And you guys, you know how this works, right? I show you how much it's worth, and then I show you that we're not even going to charge you half that, and we're not even going to charge you half that. I'm just going to lay it on the line because there's only 3 seats available at Copy Camp, so that's what we have available today. Just 3. $2,997. You get everything I've described, and you get to come to Copy Camp. Freedom comes by taking immediate action. So, with 3 seats left, here's your immediate action. Meet me at the back of the room. The first 3 people can get into Copy Camp and get everything else that we've talked about. My name is Ray Edwards. Thank you. God bless you. And I'll meet you at the back.
All right, folks, 3 people. That's all there is. You got to get to the back of the room. This is an amazing offer. I love that.